Hello and welcome to the World We Live In podcast. Today I am joined by Sandman, my good friend Sandman from ParaReality Radio. Sandman, how we doing, man?
Hey, great, Eric. Thanks for having me on, man. It's real good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Good to have you. We distance can't keep us apart.
Exactly. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out for sure. So last time we talked to you, I know you had a bit of a slip up, to say the least, and so we just let the listeners know how you're doing, and we can get into a couple things here.
Well, thanks for asking. I am doing really well. I haven't posted any updates or anything on my social media in a while. This just kind of reminds me that I probably should do that just to let everybody know what's going on. But just a quick recap without getting too involved in it. Back in the middle of November of last year, I was involved in an accident, and I shattered the patella, my left leg. And I was in the hospital for several days. I had to have reconstructive surgery, and was basically in a full leg cast for, it was supposed to be for 6 weeks. It wound up being 5. And after that, I was in a full leg brace, walking on crutches for several months. I've been going to physical therapy, trying to get mobility back in my leg. I'll never be able to fully bend or flex my leg again like a normal person. The last time we measured it was at 102 degrees of flexion, and my orthopedic surgeon says the quote unquote degree of functionality is 120. So my goal is to get to, I'm going to try to get to 110 and see how that works. Like I said, last we measured it, I was 102, but I've been officially released from physical therapy for that. I'm going to still going to continue my home physical therapy on it, and I just have to go in, figure out how to measure it on the sly. I'm walking on my own and everything now. I don't have a brace or anything like that. And now I'm working on strength training.
Yeah.
I've got cleared to go to the gym, so I've been to the gym. Actually, just last week was when I got cleared to go to the gym, so I've been to the gym twice.
Nice.
So that's going okay. But in a interesting side note, when I had my accident, I probably screwed up my right shoulder. I might have torn or stretched my rotator cuff. We're not sure yet. So now I'm in physical therapy for that. I really messed myself up just horribly. But I'm still alive, so I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. I mean, the good news for that is, I mean, rotator cuffs very common.
Yeah. And even if physical therapy can't fix my rotator cuff problem, I don't plan on having surgery if I can get away with it, because it's not really affecting my everyday life. It's just when I do like one or two certain movements with my arm.
Yeah.
And as long as it doesn't get any worse than that, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
I don't want any more surgery. So.
No. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Okay, so want to get into a couple things. I know you is your second year at, remind me the proper name of the Bigfoot Festival in Tennessee.
The Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival.
Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. And it was your second year there, right? Or first year you went as a visitor?
Yes.
Yeah.
The first time I went, I was just an attendee, and I started following the event organizers on social media, and they sent out an invite to, I don't know how many podcasters. They sent out an invite to several podcasters, and I was one of them, and they invited us to be the inaugural podcasters at this year's event. This year was the 4th year, I believe, that they had it. So this is my first year going as a podcaster. I had a really good time. I've only been to one other event as a podcaster, so I don't have a lot of experience, going to conventions as a vendor type deal. But it was very interesting to go to something this big. The first event that I went to was nowhere near as big as what this thing is. It was every year it seems to get bigger, so they say. The only thing I didn't like about it was that it's a festival, so it's outdoors, and it rained like hell, and they had us in a mud pit.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
It was a literal mud pit, so everything that we had was muddy.
Yeah, that's the risk you run, especially it was in May, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Tennessee. I mean, that's a tough time of year for rain. Yeah.
But it eventually cleared up. It was just the first couple of hours, and eventually it cleared up, and it turned out to be a pretty good day. And I can't think of a better location to have a Bigfoot festival or a Bigfoot conference other than the Great Smoky Mountains.
I mean, yeah.
This beautiful state park
it is.
in the United States, and I think it's probably the most visited state park in the United States.
Gotta be in the top 5 or top 10. Yeah.
The town that they held it in is perfect. It's a beautiful little picturesque town. The base of the Smokies, and it was great, man. The only thing I regret is that I did not get to go out and mingle with any of the other vendors. I didn't get to hear any of the speakers or anything because I had to man the tent.
Yeah.
I did get out for about 15 minutes, and I spoke to a friend of mine. His name's Mike Familent. He is a Bigfoot researcher, and he has his own YouTube television show called In Search of Big Red Eye, and he is currently traveling all over the United States looking for Sasquatch, looking for evidence. And he had actually invited me. He was there a couple of days before the event, before the festival. And he had doing a Bigfoot hunt. He invited me to go, but I just at that point in time, in my recovery, I just didn't feel like I was where I needed to try to do something like that, so I had to turn him down. But hopefully, I'm going to get, by the end of the year, we're going to hook up, and I'm going to get to go on a bona fide Sasquatch.
That would be fun.
Bigfoot hunt.
The squatching. Yeah. Did you get any good stories? Any experiencers?
Yeah, I did. I got about I think it was 9, a total count of 9 stories.
Okay.
The best one that I love the most, I had equipment failure.
No.
And I only recorded like 10 seconds of this lady's story.
Man.
And she was like, "Well, I'll come back and I'll tell it again." And I'm like, "Okay, please do, because it was such a great story." And she never came back.
Yeah.
And so I missed that, but I did get some really, really good stories. As a matter of fact, I've got them. I haven't put together the episode yet. I've got everything all edited and ready to go. I just have to sit down and record the episode where I have all those stories on there. But I got some great stories from people who were attending the festival. And, of course, they weren't all Sasquatch stories.
For
Some
sure.
of them were, ghost stories and stuff like that. But it surprised me at the people who, came through and were like, "Yeah, I'll tell my story."
Yeah.
And I didn't think that, because I tried the same approach at the first little convention that I went to a few years ago, and set up and was supposed to do a live event, and was going to get people to tell their stories. And this was at a UFO convention, and I was going to get some people to tell their stories. Have you been abducted? Have you seen a UFO? Describe it. What's your experience? How did you get into this? Zero takers. Everybody was scared to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean,
it just was like, wow, you guys suck,
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how this was going to turn out.
Yeah.
But thank God, it turned out really well because I had all this expensive equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
In the rain.
Yeah. I mean, when we went to that Dogman conference, I felt like, I mean, to be fair, they had some speakers who had good encounters, and as well as speakers who had been researching in the field for a while. So I feel like they set the atmosphere up for like people to tell their story. But yeah, I guess kind of just depends on, are people comfortable or not to tell those. I mean, because some of the encounters, are going to be less intense than others. And I know for me, and I'm sure for you, at that Dogman conference, there were a couple that were very intense. You could tell by the people telling them. So
yeah. And when I went to this convention, festival, whatever you want to call it, it was much smaller in scale.
Yeah.
They had speakers and stuff there. Probably the most famous one would have been Travis Walton. I mean, everybody in the UFO community knows about him.
Oh yeah.
But it was really before podcasting was as big as what it is now. So I think people were kind of, a little skittish of the whole thing. But, hell, everybody and their brother has a podcast now.
I know, right?
Look at us,
Yeah.
So I think that people are a little bit more open to it. And plus, this was also before the term UAP was really out there. Everyone was calling it UFO, and there wasn't this openness like what there is now. Now we have, everyone's talking about disclosure, and there's governmental hearings and whistleblowers and all this other sorts of stuff. So this was even before that. So
exactly.
It's been several years ago. As a matter of fact, it was during World UFO Day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I would have thought, it was nothing but UFO enthusiasts. I would have thought there had been at least one or two people, but I couldn't get any bites. Maybe it was my approach too. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was my first time doing something like that.
That's true. First time's never perfect.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on the Bigfoot phenomena, Sasquatch?
Dude, there's something to it.
Yeah.
There's been so many people who had some sort of sighting.
Yeah.
And there's too much. Everybody's got a camera in their pocket these days, so there's too much evidence of something unknown that's out there. And I'm not saying everything is a Sasquatch. Some of it I think is clearly misidentification. Some of it could be people who are deliberately pulling off a hoax.
Yep.
To unsuspecting individuals and stuff. But I think that there's enough unexplained encounters. There's enough video and picture evidence and eyewitness accounts to just cast it aside. Plus, there's the footprints.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody can't be lying. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody can't be lying, and there's too many reports for it to be 100%, a hoax. So yeah, people are seeing something, and I'm not sure. Well, and you have different iterations of it because I mean, down here you got the skunk ape in the swamps, and you have different iterations supposedly through different areas around the world. So yeah, it's there's still too much untamed wilderness as well. Like,
God, there's a lot.
I touch on this a lot, and I know I've said it on ParaReality. There's still too much uninhabited areas in the world for there not to be some undiscovered. I mean, I think there's a guy. I think he's a zoologist, or he goes around the world like trying to discover new species. But he's been on Rogan a few times, and he was saying that they've discovered like 100 new species last year. There's 100 new things we had no idea were on the face of the earth. Now a good part of that was underwater, like
Yeah.
fit, which makes a lot of sense. But there were also some land species as well. So it's, I mean, that's my take on it.
Well, it's like you're saying. There's too many areas that are unexplored. I mean, just look at Mexico.
Yeah.
Let's just take that for example. It hasn't been until just the last few years with the invention of lidar that they've been able to find hundreds of Mayan ruins.
I know.
More so than what they ever would have thought. And there's a lot of them are connected by elevated roads.
Yes, I saw this. Yeah.
And I mean, they just started discovering this in like the last 10, 20 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And so that just goes to show right there that even in Mexico, in the grand scheme of things, is not that large of a country, but there's so much of it that's unexplored jungle.
So much. Yeah.
And then in the Midwest here, look at how big the Midwest is, and there's areas of forest that have never been touched by man.
Nope.
So who knows what really is out there?
Yeah, I mean you got all the state parks and wildernesses and national parks. I mean, and they're national parks because people go hiking and do certain things, but also people just don't go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we're in alignment on that. What about the UFO phenomenon? How have you evolved on that one? I mean, the UFO is a very broad term, so however you want to break it up, and because you mentioned UAPs earlier and that whole disclosure project, yeah.
Well, I have always thought that we were not alone in the universe. The universe is just too big. There's too much of it that we haven't seen. So I think that there are aliens from other worlds out there. Mm-hmm. Or should I say there are planets that are inhabited by people, by some sort of species.
Yeah.
I guess they're all alien to us because they're not from here, right? But, as far as them coming here and, abducting us and probing our anuses and all that sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it has happened. I think that in the past, I'm a huge ancient astronaut theorist.
Zachariah Sitchin.
So, Zachariah Sitchin, Giorgio Tsoukalos, and all those guys. Eric Von Daniken. Mm-hmm. Whom I've met Von Daniken and Tsoukalos, and they are not weirdos. I mean, they may have some weird ideas that are not mainstream, and Tsoukalos certainly looks weird, but they're very intelligent, well-spoken individuals.
Yes.
Very, very well educated too. But I think that aliens have come to us in our distant past. I'm not saying that aliens built the pyramids, and I'm not saying that aliens created man or anything like that. I think that they helped us figure out how to build the pyramids. I think they gave us tools and technology on how to do it, and how to make all these megalithic structures. I think that they did mingle in our evolutionary timeline. I don't think they created mankind. I think they just kind of helped bump us up a few millennia. And I think that there's still UFOs that are coming to this planet today to observe us. I don't know that they're still, abducting us and, like I said, probing our anuses and trying to get, DNA for their dying race or whatever like that. Because if you look at it, the first documented, and I say documented because I'm sure there was probably some stuff before this, but the first documented alien abduction case was in 1961 with Betty and Barney Hill. Mm-hmm. Right? So they've had 60 plus years, these aliens, to abduct us and abduct our cows,
Yep.
and probe our anuses, look at our DNA, extract our eggs and from the women and the sperm from the men and everything. They've had 60 years to do this. And if they did have a planet that was dying because they couldn't reproduce, they've had 60 years to gather all the info that they needed and all the DNA and all that sorts of stuff to produce their hybrid race. I don't think that they should be doing it anymore. It's been 60 years. We're talking about a race of beings that have traveled across space, light years,
Yeah.
to come here. And if they can do all that and then can't figure out in 60 years how to save their dying race, then something's wrong big time with that.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah, I still don't know what to believe on the abduction phenomena, because it is a very weird, and people see multiple types of entities, and you got like obviously the grays, but people also see like mantis beings or like some weird, like tall entities and insectoid type stuff. So yeah, it's a weird one. But I'm with you on the universe and other planets. If there has to be life elsewhere. So
yeah, some kind of life,
something.
Whether
Yeah,
it's intelligent or not.
Yeah.
But I think there's intelligent life out there, and they're probably sitting around going, I think there's intelligent life out there.
I know. No, it's that thing of like, if there is intelligent life, are we ever gonna, get to the point where we can go that far? And by the time we get there, are they still going to be there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you are a religious person, let's just say you're Christian or Muslim or whatever kind of religion, pick one. If you're a religious person, then we'll just stick with Christianity, okay? So if you're a Christian, you say you believe God created the earth as we know it and everything upon it, and he did it in 7 days, right?
Yeah.
So who's to say that he didn't do it on the other edge of the universe somewhere? And it was like, well, let me create this type of life over here.
Yeah.
So, that looks good. I don't like so and so, and go somewhere else in the universe where there's no chance that we're ever going to meet each other. Creates life over here. Who's to say that we're the final product anyway?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about that is it's not discussed in religious circles like that.
Mm-mm.
It's never like God created the whole universe. It's literally just focused on Earth, which is
right. And everybody says, "Oh, God is perfect." It's like, oh, is he though?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, even by his own account, he's made mistakes. So if you read the Bible and believe in what the Bible says, But I try not to get too much into religion. But I mean, if you look at it that way, that if God was capable of creating everything that we know now, surely he could have done it more than once. He didn't. Surely he didn't just have just one shot in him. Had to have been. You had to have the ability to do it more than once. And like I say, who's to say that we are the final example? And if you really want to take a little bit more of a deeper dive, to someone who doesn't really like to discuss religion, let me discuss religion with you. If you want to take a little bit more deeper dive than that, speaking of the Bible, and you read the Bible, and from the Old Testament, God spoke to us, right? He had conversations with people, and it could have been a burning bush, it could have been a cloud, it could have been a ray of light, or whatever, however he chose to appear, but he had conversations with us, right? Well, he doesn't do that anymore. Not like what he used to, at least.
Yeah.
So maybe this experiment ran its course with him, and he's like, okay, let me move on. And he's doing the same thing to somebody else, another world right now. And not that he's abandoned us, but he's just like, okay, this experiment I've taken it as far as I can take it, or it's not good panning out like I wanted it to, or whatever. So let me quit this experiment. I'm going to try my experiment somewhere else on the other edge of the universe.
Yeah, I think a couple of the founding fathers were deists, which, if I'm correct, it means that they believed that God had created us and then just kind of stepped away.
Peaced out.
Yeah. So
I think that's a lot more. If there is a God, I think that's a lot more plausible than saying, oh, he's stuck around. But but you can also have the arguments like, well, what does time really mean to God? A blink of an eye.
Yeah, in the mind of yeah.
So, but who knows? There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, you're right. Okay, so I wanted to get into the documentary Hellier a little bit, and just some background context on this. Hellier is a documentary that Greg and Dana Newkirk. I don't know that they produced. I think they were producers along with a couple other names I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was basically documenting their experience of these caves in Kentucky and these strange emails they were getting from random people, and then kind of their foray into occult magic of sorts, if you will. I had watched the first season back when it came out. I think it was like 2019 or 2018.
Yeah, it was before the pandemic, and I watched it too, and it was really good.
Yeah, really good. Well produced, and they were using the Estes method to communicate, which is basically headphones that are soundproofed, but they're hooked up to I can't remember the device, but it's like a radio interference, static. Yeah.
The Ovilus.
Yeah. And so they were communicating supposedly with something, and it was good. And then they released the second season, I think in 2020 or 2021, and I just finished it about 2 weeks ago.
How many episodes?
It's 10 episodes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's extensive. Like, it is very extensive and intensive as well. Like, they cover a lot of information. And so I'm gonna try not to do spoilers, but there's a couple things I have to mention. But it doesn't give away like any final part of the season. But so I was going for a walk, and it just, like, for some reason the documentary just popped in my head, and so I hadn't thought about it for 2 or 3 years, so I was halfway through it at the time, and I remembered enough to just kind of start where I was. Mm-hmm. And so when I started it, they were basically on this quest to find these coordinates that they had been sent, and so I'll go into how it relates to me, but they had gotten these coordinates, and one of their friends goes to these coordinates, and it's somewhere in North Carolina, and at those coordinates there's this balloon, and he thinks nothing of it at the time, but like he ends up like picking up the balloon and taking it with him. And I think that was in 2019 or 2018 when he went to these places, and he like thought he was being like tracked at the time and some weird stuff. But so then fast forward in the documentary like an episode or two, and they're in Kentucky trying to like they're going down these back roads, like just kind of exploring this area of Kentucky, and they're going down this dirt road, and there's a tree down in the middle of the road, just like randomly on this back road. And so they have to stop, and at the side of the tree, they see this balloon. And so they think it's like, they're in the opinion that it's like some sort of marker, like guiding them to where they need to be. And there's this whole backstory of like, they think there's someone guiding them on the path to figure out this mystery in Kentucky. Like someone, like I don't know what you call it, like someone removed from the situation, but still trying to like usher them to these points. And then, so I was on a walk the other day, and when was the last time you saw a deflated balloon? I hadn't seen one in, years. And so
like a party balloon?
Like a festive balloon that had been popped and is just laying on the ground.
It's been several months, but
yeah,
but not one that was popped.
Yeah,
just laying on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. So same here. Like that's not something you see like every day. And I was on a walk down here where I live, and I just see this random popped balloon on this, like on the grass, just right next to where I'm walking. And it's a path that I take probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week. Like I'm constantly walking this path. And I don't know, I just thought it was weird because I don't know if it's one of those things where like your mind, like I had just watched a documentary and like my mind is looking for things kind of subconsciously. Synchronicity type of things, but like I just thought it was weird that, and when you watch a documentary, like the balloon plays in a strange and interesting part in them kind of unraveling this mystery. I just thought that was a weird thing that happened to me, kind of not related to the documentary, but yeah.
Now I saw the first season. I liked it. I'm not. It has been several years since I've seen it, but I remember at the time not buying in fully to the whole series of mysterious emails they were getting.
Yes, I agree with that, and
that seemed set up. That's a plot point,
Yeah, there are parts of the documentary, I will say, that they stretch a little bit, and maybe that's just, they had to make a certain amount of time, for each episode or whatever. But I will say in the second season, there are points where it's a lot more fast-paced and succinct than the first season.
Yeah. But the whole thing that you started out talking about with the coordinates, and the guy going and finding the balloon and everything, but feeling like he was being followed, that kind of has a feel of remember that app Randonautica?
The Randonauts, and
that has a kind of Randonautica feel.
Yeah, it does.
Mixed up with that, the name escapes me. I looked into it. I was going to do a podcast episode on it. I looked into it, but it never went anywhere. It was this group that was posting flyers all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
It's like call number if you had these weird experiences, and that it kind of mixed in with that because I listened to some guys that are kind of acquaintances of mine that have a podcast called Hollow Sky.
Yes.
And
yep.
They're the guys that I know that broke that story. I wish I could remember the name of the mysterious organization, but anyway, some guy that they interviewed had gotten mixed up with them, and he thought that they were able to track him with his cell phone, and so that kind of your story with the Hellier thing kind of reminded me of that mixed in with Brando Nautica.
Yes.
Type feel.
And it's got that. It's the second season still has that type of vibe. They end up, again, this doesn't spoil anything, but they end up, during the second season, they end up coming to the conclusion that they're being, I don't know if used is the right word, but they're being like guided into some sort of ritual, some sort of mass ritual that they have to somehow finish, and that's kind of where the second season goes. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, it is. It is. So again, don't want to spoil anything, but it's a good series. It's a good watch.
Well, I have to rewatch the first series before I tackle the second.
Yeah, definitely.
So, is it, in your opinion, is it real? Is what they're, or is this just like a mix of, reality, weird stuff combined with some sort of story that they're telling?
There is something going on, in Kentucky, in the general area of like eastern Kentucky, and that's always been a strange part of the United States. Like, I think if you ask anyone that's, especially growing up in kind of like Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, like that is a strange part of the U.S. And actually, like, I'll talk about a couple things on that. So like, there's something going on in Kentucky, and they end up talking to someone that goes into a lot of detail about what they think is happening. But so this part of Kentucky sits on like the 37th parallel.
Ooh, okay.
So it's like there's a term that parallel is called, but it's one of those. It's one of those window areas, it feels like, where, like, just strange things happen, and
like a ley line?
Yeah, like a ley line, yep. And so, in that part of Kentucky, apparently, has the most, what was it? It was, like, the most committed people to mental health institutions, like, in the U.S. Like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like that area, there's something about it where people from that area just have some sort of issue, or
I think the 37th parallel is famous for UFO encounters, sightings, and stuff like that. So did they touch on it being, aliens?
No, they don't get into aliens. They get into what's happening kind of in the caves. So they go underground. But again, it's related. I think the phenomena is related to some extent. So, and then I was just listening to another podcast, Into the Fray, and she was interviewing a guy who, similar area of Kentucky. He didn't say where it was, but I could tell it was in that general area. And he's had Bigfoot experiences, he's had UFO experiences, abduction experiences around that same area. So, they've definitely tapped into something. What it is, they don't really explain, or have. They have some answers towards the end, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, since the 37th parallel is known for its UFOs and aliens.
Exactly.
And we started out this podcast talking about UFOs and aliens, so it's
I know, right?
more synchronicity.
I know, right? Yeah, and then they have a new documentary. It's called The Unbinding. And
Is this by the same?
People? Yep, Greg and Dana, and I'll just read a little. So it says, after discovering a strange statue in New York's Catskill Mountains, two hikers become the target of chilling paranormal phenomena As the activity escalates, occult researchers Greg and Dana Newkirk are called to uncover the truth. Yeah, and so that's kind of where it goes. It's on Amazon. I think it costs like $4 or $5, but that's their most recent thing. So yeah, it sounds like they're still on that same type of line of inquiry.
Okay. Wonder why they stopped doing Hellier. Maybe the second season didn't do as well, so they're just like, screw it.
I mean, honestly, that's probably it. I mean, they also have to make a living, and
that's true.
I know they have that traveling paranormal museum. Have you looked into that at all? It's pretty interesting, but yeah, they probably just didn't have enough material, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to make a living in the world of the paranormal.
Yeah, no doubt.
And all that, unless you get lucky and you get your own like legit television show, or you're like Nick Redfern, who can write a book in his sleep in 2 hours.
That guy's insane. He writes so I don't know how he writes so fast. It's crazy.
I don't know either. But he's, like I said, he writes in his sleep. He goes to bed thinking about writing a book and wakes up and it's done.
Has to.
Yeah. So, even my friend that I was talking about at the top of the show, Mike Family, who does the Bigfoot research and everything, he was talking to me. I was like, how are you surviving? Because he literally, he's homeless.
Yeah.
The man is homeless, and he quit his job, basically quit everything he had, sold everything he had, and he has this car that he has outfitted, and he's going around, I give him props. He's, that's his dream. That's what he wants to do, and he has the ability to do it. But, like I said, he's homeless. He lives in a tent.
I guess that's, I guess that's the way it works. John Keel, even though he has some of the best works, of paranormal phenomena to this day, people in the field recognize his genius, but the dude was all over the place. Like you said, just running from spot to spot. So
yeah. And he goes to public libraries and does and conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
But he gives speeches at public libraries, and they pay him to come. So that's how he's making his money to live off of. But he has, he makes just enough money to put gas in.
Yeah.
And in the car and buy some food or equipment or whatever. So he was talking. I was talking to him. He was like, well, how are you going to, how long can you sustain this?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he said, I don't know. He said, I'm going to give it a couple more years. I think I'm going to try. And he said, then I'm literally I think I'm going to run out of money. He said, I'm going to do it until I run out of money. And I think that I can do it for another, he said, year or year and a half. So this was back, during May. So
yeah.
So we'll see. But I got to give him his props, I wish I could do something like that, but I got responsibilities.
I know. I wish I could too. If I sit and think about it, I'm like, man, that would be really fun. But then, when I actually start being like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta have stability.
Yeah.
I think some people just have that. They have that traveling spirit.
Yeah.
They really do.
And I have all these great ideas for stuff like podcast or even doing a television show.
Yeah.
Which I could do. I could totally do those things. But the problem is that I also have, I'm an adult and I have other adult responsibilities, and those things would have to, the adulting would have to take a back step.
Yes.
Take a back seat, and if I want to stay married to my wife, I can't do that.
Yeah, it's that priorities thing, right?
Yeah, she supports hurts me, but whenever stuff like this begins to take over, that's when she's like, hey, put the brakes on, if I was a single man and didn't have anything else to do except just, and was younger and didn't have anything else to do except just go to work, I could do all these things, but you're not making any money. I mean, how much money are you making at this? I know you don't.
I'm losing money. I'm losing
exactly.
money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I finally gotten to the point to where I'm breaking even.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm breaking even. I'm like, yes, I'm not losing money anymore.
You know what I heard the other? This is a crazy stat, and it said, I have to verify this, but I can imagine that there is some validity to it. It said that if you've published 20 podcast episodes, you're in the top 1% of podcasters ever.
Wow.
And I was like, I mean, I'm sure there are a ton of people who have started podcasting and just like gotten into it, and I mean, like anything else, they don't enjoy it. They don't like the, whatever.
I think people, when they get into it, and from my experience, and I'm sure I've told you this before, but I think they burn out too quick. Because you get into it and you're like, oh man, this is so much fun. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get this mic and I'm going to get this piece of equipment. I'm going to do all this sorts of stuff. And they sink, a lot of money into doing it and not realizing, number one, it takes a lot of work if you want to produce quality. Number two, you're not going to make any money out of it. And number three, you aren't the next big thing, buddy.
No,
you're just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they get into it and they put some money in there and it's fun, and it is fun. I love the creativity behind it and putting stuff together. It's a great outlet for me, which is I think the reason why I've kept doing it for so long.
Yep.
But people get into it and they'll just podcast the shit out of themselves, for like, just like, oh, we're doing, 5 nights a week for 2 hours a night. It's like eventually you run out of steam, you run out of topic ideas, and like I say, you're not the next big thing. There's no one knocking on your door to be on your podcast, and then it just goes away.
Yep.
Or they have someone like my wife, and it's like, you need to cut this shit out because you're not making any money and the grass needs cutting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I get it, but I also happen to have one of the most, I think, supportive and understanding wives in the whole entire world because she allows me to do this. We have an understanding that I get, this allotted amount of time, during the week to work on my podcast. And if I choose to do it, that's fine with her. And if I choose not to do it, that's also fine with her.
Exactly.
But we have this understanding. And whenever I was doing it big time and I was hosting 2 different shows, and then I was doing a 2-hour podcast episode every Friday, and I, had 2 shows going on at the same time, and I did that for like 2.5 years. That did take a toll on the relationship. I was successful, once again, didn't make any money. I'm not saying that I was, a millionaire and I made $0, but I was successful in the point that I had a popular show.
Yes.
And I have won an award and all that sorts of stuff, but it came at a toll in my personal life. And I'm not Joe Rogan. I don't have sponsors that are, buying my podcast for $1 million a year or whatever he's making, and I don't have people who are knocking on the door saying, hey, I want to advertise on your podcast, so it's at this point, it's a labor of love. But I do have something that I want to say, though.
Yeah, please.
So I just interviewed Jim Harold. Do you know who Jim Harold is?
Oh yeah, Jim Harold's Campfire.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I just started following his show.
Well, I just interviewed him.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, and he gave me a press kit thing.
Yeah.
Little 2-pager.
Oh, nice.
And it says right here, where is it? Right here. In 2005, Jim launched the Paranormal Podcast, which is the longest-running paranormal podcast on the internet. Guess what, Jimbo? I got you by a year because I started in 2004.
Damn.
So,
did you dispute that claim with? Oh, you didn't.
No,
That's funny.
I didn't say anything to him about it.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if he's been doing. It may be the longest continually running podcast.
Definitely, yeah.
And I've taken some breaks here and there from mine. But as far as you want to go back and say who's got the older podcast, I've got it by a year because I started in 2004. So suck it, Jim. I got you. I got you on that.
Claim it.
But,
yeah.
But no, I mean seriously, he's a great interview. He's a nice guy.
He is, yes, very nice. You can tell by his show, he's a very nice guy.
Oh yeah. He and I have a lot of our backgrounds are similar, but
yeah.
I thought that was kind of ironic. I'm looking at that and I'm like, ooh, 2005. I've been doing this since 2004. Does that mean that I have the longest running paranormal podcast? I mean,
yeah.
How does he know? So he can have it. It's cool.
Yeah, you're not gonna burn any bridges.
No. I said he's not trying to. He's a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's not trying to do anything, clandestine or anything.
Yeah, exactly. What have you been into as far as the podcast goes? Have you covered any new interesting topics or anything that you'd like to mention?
Dude, I've got so many things in the can.
Yeah.
I've just got to go edit them and put them together. I've been getting a lot of publicity agents contact me and because their person they're representing has got a book coming out.
Oh, gotcha.
Whatever, that's how Jim Harold got in. His publicist got in touch with me, and I interviewed some guy he lives in, I think, Arizona or New Mexico now. He's from the UK. He's a UFO guy.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Macklin, I interviewed him. I've done psychic. Her name's Barbara With, With. It's a really weird last name.
Yeah.
I've done. And I haven't interviewed a psychic in a long time. That was she. And she doesn't really view herself as a psychic medium, but she kind of is. So that was kind of an interesting interview. But yeah, I've got a few interviews scheduled that is coming up, and I've got a few that are in the can, and I got a few that I've done, but I just haven't had time to sit down and edit them together and put them together in an episode.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do my, every summer I do a summer series where I pick, one overall arching topic and I break it down into 3 categories. And this year I'm doing what I call triangles of death.
Yes.
And I've done the Devil's Triangle in Japan, and I got to do another episode. I'm behind. I've got so much stuff going on in my life. I'm behind. I need to churn an episode out here really quick. But yeah, I'm still in there. Still doing it. I've turned a lot more towards conspiracy theories than what I used to, but that's just the evolution of things.
Yep.
Back in 2004, whenever I started, I was going to be a paranormal podcast, and I was going to talk about ghosts and spirits and hauntings and paranormal investigating, and that was going to be my podcast. But you can't just stick to that and be like really successful. So over the last 20 years, God, it just dawned on me. I've been doing it for 20 years. Holy shit.
You said it, yeah.
But over the past 20 years, it's evolved and changed, and I got into it for a little while. I got into aliens and UFOs and then some ancient alien theories, and then, moved more now towards the conspiracy theory realm. And it's just this, I'm like other, I think, shows of this nature. It's a hodgepodge mishmash of all things weird. And, I've done some true crime, some unsolved mysteries and stuff. I really enjoy doing stuff like that. One of the things that I had the most fun doing was when I was put together that series. I think I did a 5-episode run of the guy that blew up Second Avenue.
Oh, yeah, the Nashville bomber, yeah.
Yeah, I got to do, I did some stuff, I think it was 5 episodes, looking into, this guy's past and investigating this guy and all that sorts of stuff. And I've had people say that was some of the best stuff that I've ever done. And I'm like, hey, cool, I'll take that, But
no,
I don't think I'm going to turn into a true crime podcast anytime soon.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, your series on that is the only extensive thing I've heard about that. That kind of just got swept under the rug somehow.
Yeah, I really want to know what was in those packets that he mailed out to his friends and stuff. But they kept a lid on it for the most part. Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but yeah.
And I thought for a hot minute that I was going to be able to do the same thing with the Nashville shooter with the Covenant School.
Yeah.
And I did do an episode on that where I speculated about some things, about the motives behind why that person did what they did. And I was looking to expand on that and have at least one, maybe 2 more episodes into it. But then the whole controversy came about the school and the parents did not want the manifesto released to the public and all the other sorts of stuff. And I was like, I think I'm just going to not worry about doing anything else with that, just out of respect for the school and the parents, because if they don't want the manifesto released, then, I'm not going to go in there and start doing speculation and all this other stuff and dishonor the memory of those children, which is what they wanted to preserve, and they didn't want to give this person, this shooter, any more fame than what they had already gained. So I thought I should respect that. It goes back to that whole roundtable discussion that you and I did a few years ago about being a responsible conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be an Alex Jones. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, Alex is, there's only one Alex Jones, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he's lost everything because he's Alex Jones.
Dude, crazy. Yeah. That whole scenario is wild. They're just...
He is getting, I have to say, I think he's getting what he deserves. I think he and his show need to just go away, or he needs to, if he's not going to go away, he needs to change up his format and everything a lot. But hey, it's how he makes his living, so he's probably not going to do it.
Yeah, I think his reputation is going, if it's not gone at this point. So
he still has apparently a lot of supporters out there. So yeah, it's definitely not what it used to be.
No, it's not what it used to be.
What about you? What's going on with the podcast?
Kind of similar to you. I've been. We haven't had an episode in a couple months, but personally, I've been going down a lot of conspiracy holes. you know, a lot of like international conspiracy holes, like the Economic Forum and
WEF.
Yeah, the WEF. There, I mean, this dude. Honestly, like I feel like we're living in like some sort of superhero, supervillain world where like, because I mean that's literally what it is. It is like all these insanely wealthy people getting together at one place and trying to determine where they want to take the world, and it's like that is literally the plot of James Bond. Like if you've watched any of the new James Bond movies, like that is what Bond is fighting, is this syndicate of supervillains.
Well, look at I mean, it's not just the WEF. You got the Bilderbergs. You got Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove. Yep.
You know, so it's been going on a long time.
I mean, yeah.
Now, because of the internet and everyone's connected everywhere to everything at, you know, all times, now it's just now starting to really, you know, come to light, and you can't hide it like what you used to.
No. I mean, okay. I mean, I've started going down, like, you know, the military industrial complex, and like, especially with the U.S., especially like, who's actually pulling the strings, because it's not the president. It's never been the president, and it never will be. It never will be. So it's, you know, it's the military industrial complex. It's the corporations. Honestly, we live in like we live in some sort of corporate oligarchy society these days. I mean, we really do. We live in some corporate oligarchy where they've bought out all the politicians, and, you know, the corporations make the. It's almost like cyberpunk. Honestly, I think we're headed towards like a cyberpunk world.
And so many of the politicians now they're just concerned with their 15 minutes of fame and getting clicks and likes.
Yeah, the Senate hearings where they get to destroy someone.
Let me say the most outrageous, outlandish thing. Like, I don't know, what can I think of that'll get me, you know, on the news? I've got it, Jewish space lasers, you know. and then get mad because people are like, you're the dumbest freaking, see you next Tuesday in the room. And then she tells someone to F off. I'm like, that's our leader. Those are people who are leading our country, people who believe in Jewish space lasers, and then telling reporters to F themselves when they get called out on it.
Yeah.
That's who's running our country.
Well, there's no accountability for anyone. So, I mean, they can say what they want to say, and you know, they're gonna have protection either way. So it.
Yep.
You know, there's no punishment.
And they're just gonna get reelected. And this is true about politicians. No matter, you know, what side of the fence you sit on, or who's pulling your purse strings or whatever. The whole goal is to, number one, get into office, and then once you get into office, the rest of the time you're there revolves around staying in office. So your reelection campaign begins day one.
Yep.
And that's all you're concerned about, is getting reelected. So the shit that really needs to be taken care of, when, you know, you go to do your job and you vote on shit and stuff like that, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. You know, but right now, I've got to say some shit about Jewish space lasers to get me on the news, to get my name out here. Yeah,
to get people to know who you are.
I would love to take, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Ted Cruz and was it Leslie Graham and Mitch McConnell and all those people who are just like so far out there. I'd love to be able, and I'm sure there's a way to do this, I just don't know how, but I'd love to be able to look at their voting record, because there's a voting record, and it shows if you're there or not to vote on shit. I would love to look at their voting record to see if they were present, you know, more times than not.
Did you did you see there's a I can't remember his first name, but Massey, I think he's a Republican, Thomas Massey. He was on I think he was on Tucker, and I don't agree with everything Tucker says, but he was on Tucker, and he was saying that the politicians in the U.S. have a handler that is from it's called the American Israel, I think it was political action committee or something like that. But it's these people who represent Israel-American relations, and they tell the politicians what to vote for that's going to be in interest of their connections, and what to say regarding Israel. And
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. So it's like it just goes back to my point, is they're not making decisions based on the best interest. They're making decisions on who's paying them.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's capitalism at its darkest. This is the way that we're practicing capitalism today is not the way that capitalism was designed to be implemented. And America basically is bought and sold by big pharma, big corporations, and the governments of other nations.
Yes.
I mean, we're not the political power that we once were. We're not the mighty military. We don't have that like we once did. And the World War III is already being fought. And it's
100%.
Yeah. Guns, and it's not with germ warfare or biological warfare or anything like that. World War III is being fought basically financially, because you got like Korea and China coming over here and buying up all of our damn land. And people know that they're doing it, but they don't give a shit because they're just getting flashed all kinds of money. I'm going to give you more than what your property's worth.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, they don't care who's buying.
Exactly. No. And pretty soon we're going to be owned by, Asian foreign nationals. The whole country.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. There's a map I saw the other day that shows the area next to U.S. military installations that were owned by Chinese corporations. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they know the Communist Party owns every Chinese corporation. Like, that's public knowledge. And yeah, they're just selling it off.
They need to be getting some LiDAR or some ground penetrating radar out there to all those properties and look for tunnels.
Yeah. Where's the tunnels going in and out of the military? Seriously.
What I'd really be concerned is if they were owned by Germans, because the Germans will build some tunnels, buddy. They'll dig a tunnel. I bet they got some German engineers hired by freaking China.
Yeah, well-enforced. Yeah, well-enforced tunnels. Oh, yeah, it's and it's the thing that aggravates me is it's just like it's out in the open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
and
is.
It's public knowledge.
It's public knowledge, and the China doesn't care.
No.
They don't care. It's public knowledge, and if you don't want this to happen, stop selling us your shit. It's that simple.
Yeah, but they know.
It's not happen because people in America want money.
Yep.
Everything is about money.
Yep.
And we're very close. I don't know how things are in Orlando, where you're at, but here in Nashville, we are very, very close to busting that housing bubble. And Nashville is gonna. It's not just a housing bubble. It's the Nashville economy.
Yep.
It's gonna just bust wide open here before long, because we can't sustain what's going on.
I saw Nashville was one of the most inflated housing prices in the nation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Very expensive to live. And I don't see, we're getting like 90 to 100 people a day moving here.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah.
So you're getting 700 people a week, 500 to 700 people a week, let's just say, that are all moving here, and none of them can afford to buy a home because it's too damn expensive. Unless it's one of those people who sold their, 1,000 square foot home in California for, $2 million.
Yes.
And they come here and they buy a 5,000 square foot mansion, it's still pocket money. But for the most part, it's not all of those people. There's a lot of people who are like me and you who are coming here. So, they're young kids, and I'm 20 something years old. Where's the hottest place to live? Nashville. I'm going, and how how are you affording to live here? I mean, like, rent in Nashville is now more.
Thing. Well, everyone, sorry we got cut off there. I had my computer decided to quit on me. Been having some technical issues lately, so we will call it there. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please rate and review on iTunes and Spotify. Anywhere you're listening, give us a review, and we will catch you next time. Thank you all for listening.